ESPN had planned to release this in the lead up to the Olympic Games this year in Tokyo. Well, obviously that's been postponed. A year is what we're working with right now. Let's assume, and that may be a big assumption, but let's assume the Olympics happen in 1 year. What can happen in your mind realistically, or what should and needs to happen in just 1 year after Athlete A, after this podcast, following the conversation that we've been having over the last couple of years, to make this sport safer and healthier for the young women who participate? What do you all see as possible in the next year? And I'm gonna get to in the next couple of years, but in the next 12 months, what can we do? What should we be doing? What do you want to see have happen?
Alyssa, do you want to go first, or
I'm opening it to the whole group. Whoever
Okay.
wants to take
Yeah. I
it.
mean, I think from a governing body standpoint, the fact that we still haven't seen an independent investigation, that we still don't know the answers, so many of the basic answers, who knew what when, who covered up what. I think the transparency, the fact that we are still, the governing body is still treating this as a PR and marketing issue and not a child abuse issue, for me, is at the heart of all of it. You know, there was so many moments at the very beginning of all this where I just wanted whoever was becoming the new president, there seemed to be a new one, you know, every 6 months, to just stand at a microphone and say, we are blowing this place up. We have a child abuse problem. We have a child sexual abuse problem, and we are putting children first. And no one did that. And so I think until there is more transparency, and until some of these lawsuits move forward, the bankruptcy is figured out, I think it's really tough until we have a governing body that the athletes themselves trust has their best interest at heart. And right now we know the athletes, and the athletes we spoke to, Simone Biles being one of them, who is still currently competing for the organization, do not believe that the organization they are wearing on their leotards is putting their, that they are the priority. I don't know if I just gave you what I can see happening. I guess those are a lot of roadblocks to what I think needs to happen. But I think first and foremost, the athletes need to believe that the organization they are competing for puts their health and welfare first.
Right. Totally agree with all that. I'm just going to add that this is a really particular moment in time. I know the athletes miss competing. I know that those who were ready for the Olympics wish that it was happening. But there's one good thing about this pause, and that's that it's giving everyone a chance to really look at how little input athletes have across sport, not just in gymnastics, but in the whole Olympic system, how little input they have over their working conditions. And that needs to change across the board. Everything from free expression to, the ability to market themselves, to just what kind of four walls are they working within. All of that needs reexamination. That's not going to happen in a year. Even if Tokyo gets canceled, it's going to take a lot of time for that to process and for real reform to happen. But we can't help but look at it right now. It is staring us in the face. Anyone who loves sport, don't you want to believe that what you're seeing is not destructive? And I want to just put in a word for how much I admire gymnasts, admire their strength and their elegance and their ability to perform under pressure. I would love to be able to watch elite gymnastics and feel better about it than I have for the last 25 years. And I'm serious about that. And I think, it can be so compelling and so entertaining and so uplifting if done better, if we do better by the children who practice it. So that's my manifesto. I haven't exactly given you a roadmap, but that's how I feel.
Well, one of the things that Jen and Tasha and Joan. Yeah, Joan, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that I wrote about, I've lost track of the years. Maybe it's 30 years since 1995. I don't know. 25. Anyway, that elite gymnastics is not a hobby, right? It really is their career. for those numbers of years. So I've never understood why child labor laws don't apply, because they may not be getting a paycheck, but they're certainly making money for USAG, and they're being sponsored and all the rest of it. I think that Child Protective Services needs to be totally involved at every gym that has, athletes who are competing over, X level. They need to be in those gyms and checking on them. We can't count on USAG. I mean, if there's one thing we know, is that we can't count on them to keep their athletes safe. Hopefully somewhere down the road that can happen, but that's not happening now. And so I think that there should be very, very clear and accessible criminal charges, criminal laws, that there are things on the books where a parent, Child Protective Services, actually will hold the adults accountable in a very severe way to make it so not worth doing that. And the other thing that strikes me is that, gymnastics, especially female gymnastics, I can't think of another sport where coaching principles line up with what they're doing. It's so anathema to what we value about a coach, because it's always about how the coach is developing their athletes. And I'm just talking about youth. I'm not talking about the NFL, MLB, or whatever, but youth. It's about them developing the whole person, because guess what? Almost nobody gets to the Olympics, gets to the NFL, nobody gets there. So what are you doing with all those other girls, right? As a coach, you're doing exactly the opposite of what every youth coach should aspire to, and most youth coaches do. I mean, think of John Wooden, man, think of his pyramid and all of those things. God, could gymnastics coaches be farther away from the foundational purpose of being a youth coach?
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.